Appreciate everybody being here around 6:30 or so and look at the exhibits, and going to try to go into a little more detail on what you were looking at out there and explain kind of where we've been, where we're headed, a couple of timelines, and hopefully we'll get there in about 20 minutes. After that, we'll stay around in the atrium and answer any other questions you might have, some that might be generated by the presentation. If you have on-street parking today, when we get through, you will have on-street parking. We're not taking any on-street parking out with this project. Now, during the course of construction, the houses between Alex and Moore, we're going to have to work very closely with those homeowners, because to rebuild the street, we've got to really look close at the parking. So we haven't got a design yet. We don't have a timeline. We don't have a sequence schedule, but I was going to try to time how long this was, but I actually hit a 1-minute timer, so I guess I'm done. I don't know. Yes, it was great. Oh, let's get into this thing. I want to tell you where we've been. In February of 2010, there was a document prepared for the City of Coppell about community-wide trails. In that document, we talked about what a community trail was, and it's a trail that's concrete and typically 8 foot in width, and it's local user volume. So that's kind of the document that was published out there initially in 2010. And if you look close at this exhibit, my mouse works, you can see that on the Parkway area, that trail basically went from the high school to Moore Road. And the concept behind this first document from 2010 was trails, off-street trails basically, that went to destination points, i.e. library, parks, schools, etc. Not anything that would be a throughway for bicycles or anything of that nature. However, as time went on, we realized that we do have people on bicycles, and maybe we need to take a look at that also, and how does that interact with our streets. So in October 2015, there was another document prepared, Bicycle Pedestrian Master Plan. This did not replace the prior document. It was supplementing to the prior document. I know y'all can't see that, that's why I zoomed in. This right here is from that document from October of 2015. Again, it shows side paths on this exhibit. You'll notice that there's not a side path on Parkway. The prior document showed a side path from Moore to the high school. There's not one shown here. And you might say, that's good, Ken, the meeting's over, let's go home. No, because, well, one, the side path's defined the same way. It's for casual adult bicycle riders, etc. But what this had a component of was on-street bikes. So when this came out, they had looked again at some of the roadways in Coppell, and Parkway had been identified as a on-street bike lane. So if you actually stay with the colors, that's kind of the cycle track protected bike lane. So y'all probably were wondering why we came to you the first meeting a long time ago and we started talking about on-street bicycle lanes along Parkway, which y'all really loved, and I know we're disappointed we can't build them, but it was just trying to implement a plan that had been adopted in 2015. And we floated that out to, there was more people here that night, about 100 plus. And it wasn't receptive, it wasn't received very well. So we went back and looked at other options. But we were just trying to implement a plan. It was very clear that we were not going to do an on-street dedicated, barricaded bike lane. And there's a lot of different types. There's a conventional bike lane that you're maybe just got some striping. There's the buffered bike lanes, which you're physically separating. And then the cycle track or the protected bike lanes. A cycle track is one side of the street, a wide track with two-way bike traffic on it. And those could be dangerous at intersections. But anyway, we got the message loud and clear that we're probably not going to do bike lanes on Parkway. So we dropped back to the February 2010 plan that had the side path. Our goal is to still get pedestrians and casual bicyclists safely to points of interest. This right here, by implementing what I'll present in just a minute, will get people from eventually the high school to Moore Road. From Moore Road, they can go north into Moore Road Park. Moore Road's a wide road, more likely going south on Moore Road, there'll also be opportunity for trail. But again, this is a document that was adopted in February of 2010 that we're just trying to implement with this project. And the only reason we're looking at it is because we need to rebuild Parkway. And very clear, we're only talking about Parkway from Hertz to Moore. That's why the notice that went out was very clear about Parkway Hertz to Moore. That's where this road, most of y'all that came here probably had to drive that, and the road's in poor repair. This is actually a project to rebuild the road. Yeah, I chuckled too. It's a poor repair. But along with this, we have the opportunity to go ahead and put that side path in that was identified in the February 2010 document. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to walk you through the cross sections that we had out there and kind of explain them to you a little bit. First one was a little bit east of Hertz Road. Again, just a little bit east of Hertz Road. We've got, on the top, we got existing. This is kind of a replication of the maps that are on the table out there. On this particular cross section, there's not a lot happening. We're basically rebuilding the road in this section. You can follow this line down. This where this curve is proposed, that's where it is today. Where this curve is, that's where it is, etc. The difference lies in where this sidewalk is a 4 or 5 foot sidewalk. It's proposed to be an 8 foot sidewalk on the north side. Where this is now I think it's a 4 or 5 foot sidewalk on the south side. We believe we can still get an 8 foot sidewalk, but our goal is a minimum of 6 foot on the south side. But we believe we can still get 8 through there. The important thing to notice, this line right here on both sides is trying to show that the sidewalk that exists today and the one we're going to build in the future will not be any closer to the houses or to the screening wall in this case than it is today. The width will be added to the inside. We're not taking all the green space out. We've got substantial green space. There'll still be green space left over in the future. But again, nothing will be closer to the walls. That's section 8.
The whole project, correct?
Except for one section, which I'll talk about in just a minute. Might be actually the next section. Section BB, which is across the street from the core, or between Cayley and Enclaves. Existing today, we've got, again, the 22-foot, 24-foot paving, median. That's what we're proposing in this section also. The only reason I include this cross-section, it's very similar to the one we just talked about, is because this is one where the sidewalk or the side path will be moving closer, but only on the north side. There's a wide expanse there by the parking lot, so instead of taking out any of this green space, we're actually going to push the sidewalk a little closer to the right-of-way in front of the core. We actually want people to access the core from this, so we're just pushing that way. It's not against the wall or anything. There is some green space there. Sidewalk on the south side is not getting any closer. It's getting wider, but not getting any closer to anywhere it is today. Cross-section CC is right before you get to Alex Drive. Again, we're still kind of on the park property. This is where you start seeing some changes in the design. Now in this section here, existing, we've got the 2 boulevard sections in there. South side, we have a screening wall. North side, again, we have the parking lot to the core. In this situation, We've done traffic studies, and I know I was asked about some of the numbers earlier. If anybody's interested in that, we can make it available. If we haven't already, we can put it out there as far as the traffic study. The road operates basically as one lane anyways in this particular area. So we're going to take advantage of that and remove some of the existing paving. If you take the proposed outside curve on the north side and project straight up, we're taking off about 8 foot of concrete. That'll still leave us a 14-foot driving lane. And in that 8 foot we take off, we will be putting in the 8-foot side path, additional green space. In this case, we're actually able to get more green space on both sides of that 8 foot by taking out the portion of the paving. The south side, nothing changes. The sidewalk will get wider, but that width will go towards the street. Still be green space. We're not moving it closer to the screening wall. Section DD is, I don't know if, it's right behind 300 Morning Mist, so I'm not exactly sure. In this case here, we're still removing that 8 foot of the existing paving. Again, you can follow that up, the 8 foot of the existing paving. We do have a screening wall on the north side. And the reason I mentioned 300, I did talk to the owner of that property, what's the day, Tuesday. And typically when we do a cross section, we kind of put a representative tree in. However, if you look at the real cross section, there really is a tree there. And she's very concerned about the status of that tree. So in this case here, we do have a tree in this cross section, but right now this sidewalk as it exists today is a couple of feet away from that tree. Because we're able to take out some of the paving on the north side, we're able to move the future walkway about 6 foot away from that tree. So we plan on saving the tree. I'd be stunned if anything happens to that tree. We're moving 4 foot away from it to lay new concrete. Again, a 14-foot lane. I told someone earlier that the medians were not being reduced. I believe that was one of the council members. This particular cross section, we are going to 14-foot median. There are 16 today, and there'll be 14 in the future. Again, that just gives us an opportunity to create some more green space on the south side and a little bit on the north side and get this walkway further away from that wall and tree. And typically the project would have ended at Lodge, but we looked at it as an opportunity. We're 1 block away from Moore Road, and as you indicate, the plan from February 2010 showed let's get to Moore Road, and then we can turn north or south on Moore Road with a future trail. We thought it was prudent, since we're there tearing everything up and impeding traffic and making people's lives miserable, that we might as well go ahead and extend that trail. And if you're familiar with this part of the roadway, that again, it's right before you get to Moore Road. That sidewalk on the north side, it's right on the back of curve, and it's right against the screening wall. It's a very tight. I've actually walked this a few times, and I don't feel comfortable walking it. I don't know how anybody could feel comfortable riding a bicycle on it or walking a small child on it. It's very small. It feels tight because you got a screening wall on the north side of it, and it's right on the back of curve. We have an opportunity here because, again, while this is not a divided roadway, we still have the opportunity to take out that 8 foot of paving on the north side. Still just need 1 lane here. So by taking out that 8 foot of paving on the north side and putting in a new curve, we have the opportunity to build the 8 foot walkway, no closer to the wall, but now we have this 4 to 6 foot green space between the walkway and the back of curve, which would do extra width on the side path, and then being off the back of curve, it's going to give you a feel of an expanse as opposed to feeling like that car might actually bump the curve and get you. So nothing happens on the south side other than a wider sidewalk. If anyone lives in this stretch on the south side, I don't know if anyone does, it's in the meeting, but today the sidewalk appears to cross over the property line. I didn't build that sidewalk, but it does appear to cross over the property line. To build something in the future, then we are looking at probably having to get a 5-foot sidewalk easement off of these properties. Again, not to move the sidewalk any closer. You can see today it's right here, in the future it'd be right there. We would take our width towards the street. But I'm not sure how that got constructed that way. We are not into final designs, but we will, we've done some surveying. We believe that's the way it's constructed. And if that becomes a real stumbling block, then we would not even touch anything on the south side. We would just do the north side here just so we can make sure we get the 8-foot trail all the way to Moore Road. So that's kind of the stretch of the project we're talking about, Hertz to Moore. Wide 8-foot walkway on the north side, somewhere between a 6 and 8-foot walkway on the south side, no elimination of parking, and then elimination of a lane for about half of it that's not needed according to the traffic study. So where do we go from here? The next steps is we'll go to the park board and present this concept to the park board. And if I knew the actual meeting date, I would have put it on there, but I know it's sometime between now and June the 13th because I'm going back to council on June the 13th to seek authorization to proceed. What you're looking at plan-wise out there is a plan view that's based on survey information. It is not a design of a project. We have not designed all the utilities. Everything, our goal is always to replace everything when we rebuild these roads, new water lines, new sewer lines, and inspect the drainage and replace as needed. We don't have none of that information yet. We've got a plan view based on a survey showing what we can do. So, coming out of the June 13th meeting, if council authorizes us to proceed with this concept that we've been talking about, then we will enter into our contract with our consultant to start and finish the design of Parkway Boulevard. It's a little longer than I thought, but I had different dates. I've actually changed that award at council meeting twice today. I was optimistic. I think I initially had like September 2017 in there, but my staff assured me it would not happen that soon, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't mislead y'all tonight. It looks as though to actually do a thorough job of design, address all the issues, get everything worked out, we're looking at awarding this at the March 27th, 2018 council meeting for construction. After an award of a bid, it usually takes 4 to 6 weeks for all the bonds and contracts to get signed and processed. So you would probably have a start about this time next year, as a matter of fact, of starting construction on this. Now, if the design gets through quicker, if we don't run into any issues on the design, then it could be faster. You might see work starting towards the end of this year or early next year, but this right now is our best estimate of when we would have complete plans out to bid and awarded at a council meeting. Construction, we've got 12 to 18 months. Until we actually get the 30% plans, it's tough for us to really determine how we might approach the project from a construction standpoint. Depending on the utilities we're replacing, the inlets that have to be replaced, the drainage pipes, etc., the contractor would approach the project in different ways. We also are very much aware we need to maintain some semblance of parking between Lodge and Moore. I think that's right. That we can't just go out and remove everything. We also understand that if you see 12 to 18 months, we're crossing into school years. So we have to be aware of school traffic still getting to the high school. We're very much aware of all that. We do not have an actual sequence plan right now on how the contractor would approach this project and build it. Once we have the information, you would expect another public meeting of a project nature. Probably, if we stay with the March timeline, you'd probably see it sometime after the first of the year. We would invite you back and say, here's the actual construction plans. You know, here's a slight grade change here. Here's where maybe we have to build a small tiered wall, things like that, because the grades will come into it when we start tearing stuff out and changing. So we might have some things like that, but we will have the plans, and we would invite you back and say, hey, this is what we're building. This is the actual impact, and we can look in very minute detail to what's happening adjacent to your property if you live within the stretch of Hertz to Moore Road. And actually with that, that's about 20 minutes. That's not bad. With that, that's really all I've got. I mean, I appreciate y'all being attentive and listening. We are just in the process of trying to rebuild Parkway for you. We have an opportunity to put the trail based on a master plan approved in February 2010, and that's all we're trying to accomplish with this project. There is no work planned, there's no work funded, there's no work currently identified to happen east of Moore Road. Nothing. That's why I put a map out there, and several people asked me, said, I don't really see nothing on it. And it's like, we're not planning anything. We don't want to ignore the fact that, and we played with a cross-section of what a cross-section might look like through there. Please, that's not a design. We don't have no information on that section of Parkway. This is the only section we focused on. This is the only section we're taking to construction. It's the only section we're building a side path on. And nothing we're doing on this section will preclude anything from happening on any other section. And with that, probably if there's any questions, that'd be better discussed in the atrium one-on-one, but if there's a question maybe for the whole group that's pertinent to the whole group, I'd be happy to try to answer it. Yes, sir.
Maybe early, but do you know what will the road be like? Will you still have two-way traffic, or how's that going to work during construction?
The question was, will we still maintain two-way traffic during construction? Yes, we will. To do that, though, we really have to address that parking on the south side between Lodge and Moore. So, because to maintain 2 lanes of traffic, I've got to do something with the parking. So anyone who lives in that area, I'm not saying I'm taking your parking away. I'm saying we have not addressed it yet. We realize you have to park there. Yes, ma'am.
So when you were going through section D, we talked about the north side. Could you elaborate what's happening on the south side by the houses on section D?
The question was what's happening on the south side by the houses on section DD. Actually, the only thing that's happening here, and I've looked at the Google Maps, and I know that some of these houses have steps. There's some grade differential, so those are some of the areas we might look at, might need a wall or something. But the only thing happening here is that the sidewalk's getting wider. We're not really changing. Oh, DD, okay. What we're doing here is, you see this back curve here? It actually lands about right here. We're moving this lane this way. It's why this median's 2 foot less. So that's how we're getting additional green space on this side to put a wider trail in, or a wider sidewalk, one or the other. We believe in this area that it will be a 6-foot sidewalk, not an 8-foot trail. But this is kind of where we're picking up this 20-something foot wide paving. We're shifting it a little bit north, making the median down to 14 foot as opposed to 16, just to give more green space on this side. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your efforts, first of all. If I understood correctly, so it's on the westbound lanes, you're going from 2 lanes to 1 lane. So my question is, at what point do you transition from 1 lane to 2 lanes? I'm presuming it does at some point before we get to tap, or maybe just 1 lane all the way? How's that transition?
The question was, where do we actually lose the 1 lane westbound? And in this exhibit right here, this is the core driveway. Right about here is where we pick up the 2nd lane. We have always just had 1 lane through here. I think there might be some buttons, but it's always just really been 1 lane. It'll be 1 lane until you get right near this driveway here, and then we would add that 2nd lane. And the thought behind that is, if anyone's actually gone that way in the morning, school traffic's typically backed up to the core. So volume-wise, we might not need 2 lanes to handle traffic, but unfortunately, we're stacking cars that deep, 2 lanes wide, so we wanted to make sure we maintain those 2 lanes there. The study shows that we only really needed 2 lanes starting at Hertz going towards Denton Tap. But we're wise enough to know that if we took out the lane here, we'd be stacked all the way to Lodge. So we're not that dumb. Yes, sir.
What's your thoughts on the landscaping in the medians there? Is it just gonna be grass, or are you gonna put some other bushes, some hedges and things?
Question was, what's our thoughts on the landscaping right now in the medians? We haven't got to design. I know that we've got a different landscape model for medians. At this point, I don't know if that's something we'll incorporate into this project or if it'd be a different project in the future. Brad and I will have to get together and just talk about that. It does give us an opportunity to do something different in there with this project, but right now we're not focusing on doing anything to median. But again, Brad and I need to talk about that as we get further into the design. Yes, sir.
Commend you on the appearance of our roads the last 4 or 5 years. The streets have just gotten photocop better. Every time there's a new project, newly developed light fixtures and signage. And on the medians, I noticed that a lot of the old lighting is being enveloped by the trees. And so I would suggest trying to develop the same kind of appearance on Parkway that you've done on Sandy Lakes and Westbound.
Okay. The comment was to really focus on doing the aesthetic components of this roadway as we've done on Denton Tap and Sandy Lake. And just as far as the street signs, the street lights, the young man in the blue shirt at the back by the glass, he actually designed those light fixtures. And he actually also designed the star in the intersections. And I think he's a closet architect, but I don't know. But anyway, he's actually been the one, and he's in the process. He's worked out. We're replacing our wayfinding signs also with porcelain signs. So he's been working on that project, and he's really heavy into the old town, doing some signage there also. So anyway, it was his design on that, and it does look good. It's kind of branding Coppell a little bit as we proceed onto the other streets. And sir, you had a comment.
Yeah, as far as when BD, where you're creating the green space, where you're taking out the lane,
Yes, sir.
now who's gonna maintain that new green space? Will the HOAs have to maintain that, or will that be part of the city now? Since it was part of the road before, or how's that gonna work?
We would expect the HOA to maintain it. I assume you live in this HOA. It's, okay, sorry. Y'all been a very gracious audience today. I do appreciate showing up and listening. We're kind of excited about a project to move forward, and we hope to be disturbing your life about this time in 12 months. So, and we'll be back in contact for a follow-up project meeting when we have detailed plans. And again, we'd be happy to hang around a little bit and talk to you if you have other questions or concerns. Thank you.